Word Tremendous here, and I got another book review here for you. This one was called Rogue Demon. It is book one, Archon's Rising, written by Risa Fey. It is a paranormal urban fantasy type book, according to Amazon. However, I'm going to go ahead and throw like a subgenre of romance in here because it is definitely shoehorned into the book, and I think enough of it is in there that yes, this is a light romance novel as well. Definitely paranormal, definitely urban fantasy, but there's a romance in there as well, and we'll get to that. Don't worry, I'm gonna touch on it. It was published back in August 21st of 2019, and it is exactly 334 pages. So the spoiler-free review that I'm going to do here is just so that I'm going to touch on some things I'm sure that are going to be like minor spoilers, but for the most part, it shouldn't be anything that ruins the story for you. However, if you're worried about even tiny spoilers, I totally get that. I respect that. Please pause the video, well, stop the video, scroll down to the description, click the link, buy a copy of the book. It's available on Amazon. It's actually a pretty good read. I don't think you'd be disappointed, especially if you like stories like this. Real quick, the overview of this one. The main character is a fallen angel or a demon named Lorenzo, but he goes by Enzo. Basically, fallen angels are demons. These are all the demons that sided with Lucifer and God kicked out of heaven. It gets into it a little bit, like how it happened and what it was like and everything like that. It's some pretty good visuals. It's a pretty good description of the whole thing. But Enzo is a demon. He's one of the people that sided with Lucifer. And when God found out about it, didn't like it a whole lot, took his wings and kicked him out of heaven. It's well depicted in the story. It's well described. It's an interesting chapter of the book. There are good demons, unfallen. These are demons. They're the ones that sided with Lucifer as well. They all are, but they are repentant. Not that they can do anything, as far as they understand it, to get back into God's good graces and get back into heaven, but they're still going to try to do their best by making sure that humanity is doing good things, trying to help them out, and fighting the bad demons known as the Fel, which Enzo is a part of them. He is a Fel. He's kind of a lower level worker, kind of an errand boy. He's, 23 or so, and well, he's got the body of a 23-year-old and the outward persona of a 23-year-old, and honestly, the mentality of one. But we'll get into that in a little bit. And his boss is a dreadlord. Think of that like a step below, like an archangel or something like that. And this dreadlord Molt wants him to go out and rescue the leader of the werewolves, the werewolf king, and who was captured by the unfallen, the good guy demons, if you will. And honestly, it's interesting. It's a very interesting story about what happens. It caught my attention. I do have a few issues with it. We'll get into that in just a second. But for the most part, it's a pretty decent adventure that you go on in order for him to go and infiltrate the Unfallen and rescue and release the Werewolf King. It's not terrible. Not terrible at all. The cover, it's not bad. Definitely had some effort put into there. I really like the font. I like the Archon's Rising book one in the top left there. Kind of looks like the moon, although there is the moon right there as well, which, not the option I would have gone for. But my problem with this cover is that it does not scream paranormal. It does not scream anything, like urban fantasy. It looks like a romance novel cover. I mean, the dude's got no shirt on. He's got the doomy eyes. He's almost doing duck face. It's the scraggly beard. This feels more like a romance, or maybe even, well, maybe not erotica, because it's not showing off his six-pack abs and, the V or anything like that. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Don't be questioning what I'm talking about when I say the V. But my point is, this isn't a cover. If I was because I like paranormal, I like urban fantasy, and if I was looking for something like that, I would have looked for something a little bit more, I don't know, maybe the dude had wings, but this just looks like a dude that, a gentleman caller. I mean, he looks like he's wearing a robe, and it doesn't give off the paranormal or urban fantasy. It's got real romance, minor erotica vibes to it. So I don't think the cover gives off the true like soul of the book, if that'll do. Uh, Again, nothing exactly wrong with it. I'm sure for people that are looking for romance, something this would definitely catch their attention. But I think they'd be a little disappointed because there is romance in this story, but it's a little light. The real story is the paranormal and urban fantasy stuff. The editing is pretty good. There's some mistakes, some bad word choices. There's repeat words and stuff like that. Not enough that it ruins the story or anything like that. So, but again, noticeable. I would say it's adequate. It couldn't hurt. I think honestly, just another read through of the book by the author, they'd be able to catch enough of the mistakes that they'd be able to fix it, and you wouldn't even notice. The story flow and the feel. So the story flow, I gotta be honest, it sucks. It's a slow read for me because it does what a lot of self-published authors do, and I don't know why. If I ever figure it out, I'll be a rich man because I'm going to write a book about it. They do the transitions all wrong. One paragraph, your first person Enzo, fighting something or talking with something, and then the next paragraph, your third person of the person that they're talking about, and it's so jarring that my brain just can't wrap around it. I have to reread it multiple times to figure out, oh, okay, now I'm getting this person's point of view. And then you go right back. When it's just two characters in the scene, it's not so bad. After about 100 pages, I started to adapt. But when there was 3 or more, I mean, it was constant. I had no idea if I was coming and going. During the fight scenes, 1 minute you're Enzo, the next minute you're his opponent, the next minute after that you're one of his allies, the minute after that you're a bystander, like watching, and it's super confusing, super difficult to follow, and I really hate it when authors do that. Transitions. You need a transition. If you're going to shift perspective to somebody else, especially if you're shifting to a different person and a different perspective from first to third, you need to have a transition. There needs to be something in there that prepares the reader for a view shift. And when there isn't, it's so jarring. It's awful. It ruins the story. It ruins the flow. It takes you out of the immersion. Any hope you had to get lost in the story is gone because we're just not. Imagine if while I was talking to you, all of a sudden it shifted over to a review about cars. And then it went from the review about cars to driving a car, then back to this review. That's how jarring it is, with no transition, no ready for it whatsoever. I just started talking about cars for no reason. You would be like, are you having a stroke? And it would be a fair question to ask. It's infuriating, and that's my biggest problem with the story flow. So the story flow definitely is bad for this one, unfortunately. The feel of the book, you do feel like you're in urban fantasy. The whole time, you get a little paranormal, you get a dollop of romance in there. Honestly, the romance is a little shoehorned. We'll get into that later. But the feel of urban fantasy is there the entire time. So the overall shell of the book is definitely urban fantasy, and the author conveys that very well. The pros of this story are that it's actually a really good story. When you get away from stuff, so when the author focuses on the paranormal world building and the story about how the angels, betrayed God and got kicked out of heaven and became the fallen, the demons and stuff like that, they didn't fall directly to Earth either. It's explained in the book. It's pretty cool about how they get to Earth. It's neat. It's cool world building. That's interesting. That's your paranormal urban fantasy stuff. And it's well done. It's even got a touch of supernatural. I like it. It's got a lot of really good aspects that are well written and well depicted. It's an interesting take on the heaven and hell trope, like what it really is and how it really functions and why they're afraid of it, why they're worried about it, why they're kind of morose. Keep in mind these angels are ancient beings and stuff like that. We'll get into that in a minute, but they're afraid of pissing God off even more than they already have. Like they already know they're all going to hell, but they don't want to hurry it up. It's very well done. It's very interesting. The rules and the stipulations and the guidelines that they all operate under is cool. there's witches, werewolves, vampires, assassins, and they're all, on different sides. Some of them are unfallen, which are the good guys, quote unquote. There's the fell, which are the bad guys, quote unquote. It's basically, if you've ever played Vampire the Masquerade, this would be a story right out of it. It was good. I enjoyed those aspects of the story. Enzo's he's despite not wanting to like him, I actually really did enjoy reading, from his perspective, his story, the whole thing. It was good. He's a little dramatic, a little whiny, but I think that's the intention. A little Warner Brothers, if you know what I mean, like the drama for drama's sake. He waxes philosophical, just like kind of whiny. It gets a little annoying, but at the same time, you start to kind of sympathize with him, or at least I did. It was good. I liked the character at the end, even though I don't think I'd hang out with him. I could tolerate his presence. You know what I mean? It was a good read, or he was a good main character anyway. And what I like about this one too is the characters all feel unique. There's a bunch of different characters in the book, and none of them feel like cardboard cutouts. There are no NPCs in this story, and I really appreciate that. Too many times, especially in self-published books, characters all have the same personality. They're all feeling like NPCs. If you didn't see their name after their dialogue, you wouldn't know who said it because anyone could have said it. This book does not have that problem, and I respect the hell out of that. Cons, like I've already gone over, I'm not going to beat this dead horse, but the perspective transitions are awful. Just terrible. I hate when I'm reading in one paragraph, literally a three sentence long paragraph on Enzo's perspective, and then next thing I know, the very next paragraph, now I'm in another person's perspective in a different, in like third person when I was just in first person, and it's confusing. It's like being ripped out of your own body, put in someone else's, then ripped out of their body and put in someone else's who's watching someone else to be put back in the first person and a different perspective of someone that's watching them, just to go back to first person on that one, and then you got to reread the whole thing because you have no idea what the heck just happened because your brain is reeling from trying to digest 8 different perspectives in 3 paragraphs. The love story between Enzo and the 2 main female characters is aggravating. It feels shoehorned in. It adds nothing to the story. The first woman that he's introduced to, actually, that's not entirely fair. He's introduced to Haley first, the main love interest, but he's a demon, so he's kind of a whore, I guess. Every woman that he runs into is not only gorgeous, but wants him. And it would have made sense. Maybe I missed it. I don't know, but I don't think so. Maybe he exudes some sort of sex appeal. I mean, obviously, look at the book cover. He's doing it right now. I know. If ladies, I get it. But my point is, it's just every woman he runs into is sexually attracted to him, and it doesn't, like, it would make sense if it was just like it's his demon charm or something like that. That's his vice. That's his demonic vice. He's a whore, but it doesn't make any sense. Like, every woman that he runs into, he wants to have sex with and wants to have sex with him, and it's just like I don't get it. What is I don't understand what the point of that arc is. I'm not the demographic for this love story. I get that 100%, but it just took away a lot from the story for me. His first person that he runs into is a woman named Alice, and she hates men. You find out much, much later in the book. I'm sure you can guess why. But you find out much later in the book, like at the very end of the book, you find out why. But by that time, she's a man-hating ultra feminist, like the stereotypical ultra feminist, the one, everything is man's fault, blah blah blah. And I'm sorry if you're a feminist and this offends you. It's not me that wrote this. I'm just conveying my opinion of the story. That's who the character is. Character constantly calls everybody, all men a chauvinist pig, all men only want one thing. It's all the stereotypical tropes. She's insufferable. Enzo he's not a good person at all. So don't let me try to put him in any kind of like white knight armor or anything, but he doesn't do anything to her, but she's constantly antagonizing him, constantly blaming him for everything. their first interaction, she chooses violence first, and then is upset because he defends himself, and it's a little ridiculous. I'll get into it more with the spoiler filled review, but right now I really do want you to take a moment. If you're worried about spoilers, pause the video, click the link, and buy a copy of the book. It's definitely worth the read. And like I said, by the time you find out why Alice is such an awful person, it's kind of too late. Any empathy that you might have been able to get for her, it's right out the window, because she spent 320 pages just being awful, just for awful's sake. Like, if you have a Y chromosome, you are Satan to her, and it's just ridiculous. And the main interest, Haley, she's a child. She's 21 years old. I get it. Yes, 21-year-olds are still, very immature. I get that. But Haley, I after a while, I thought I was reading the part of a 16-year-old. Her idea of love and flirting and sex, and the way she talks to Enzo. She is a moron. She is an idiot. She is blind to the world. And honestly, it's frustrating every time she speaks in the book. Enzo, even at one point, the author acknowledges it, like, you're kind of an idiot. And she goes, oh, am I? I'm not exaggerating. Sorry, minor spoiler. But I don't like that. It's just, if I'm supposed to like these characters, she's like the dittering idiot that's always apologizing in bad pornographic anime. Oh, I'm sorry, I never should have spoken. I'm just here to be pretty. It's annoying. It's really annoying. And the author kind of sets her up at one point to kind of be like a powerhouse, like she's going to do something really cool. Never happens. She never really has a redeeming moment. In the end, something pretty horrible happens to her, but we'll get into that in a minute. And that was definitely one of the cons. The two main female characters in this book were just unlikable. So yeah, I got to move the cons, because whenever I come to the screen, it's always after I've been whining about what I didn't like about the book. But honestly, what I ended up giving this book was a well-earned, well-deserved 4 out of 5 stars. And I'm going to tell you why, because that's what the channel is all about. The paranormal and urban fantasy portions of this book are very, very well done. Yeah, there's some issues, there's some weaknesses, sure. But for the most part, 90% of that part of the story is quite excellent. Enzo is an interesting character. The world that the author has created is very interesting. It feels like a I don't know, a mix of Gotham City and maybe like San Francisco a little bit, maybe New York. It's very interesting. You could see it being a real place. The people it feels like a living, breathing city. I really like what the author does there. The world that she creates with the heaven and hell and everything like that is really well done. I like the whole back and forth, the unfallen and fell problem. It's very obvious why they're fighting each other, why they dislike each other. I mean, the fell are demons, your stereotypical demons, and the unfallen are still demons, but they're demons that are trying to do a little bit better. They're still bad people ish, but it's like they're trying to do better, and it's that redemption arc type of stuff that makes it interesting. And so it's not hard to root for them. It's good. The author does a great job of drawing the line between the two factions. Enzo's plight, what he has to do in order to rescue the king werewolf and everything like that, and he has a lot of choices to make, and he doesn't always follow the paladin thing, the lawful good choices. He's definitely, I would probably say, lawful evil, I think would be fair. But it eats at him, and I like the internal dialogue when he's struggling with a decision, but he still does it because he has to, or honestly sometimes just because he wants to. It's interesting. It feels real, and I like that part. The parts of this story I didn't like were the romance sides, and I know I'm not the target demographic for the romance stuff, but it didn't enhance the story at all. Yes, the love thing between him and Haley does have kind of a a climactic effect at the end of the story, but it feels unearned. It feels like it's honestly a little ridiculous. I'll get into that in the spoiler-filled review. Please go read the book, check it out. You'll know what I'm talking about by the time you get to the end fight. But I couldn't give it a 5. I did enjoy the book. I like the book, but I couldn't give it a 5 out of 5 or even a 4.5 out of 5 because two of the main characters, both female characters, unfortunately, were just unlikable. And yes, Allie's does have an excuse, but by the time you figure out, but by the time the author lets you know, hey, the reason she's like this is because Pla it's too late. There's literally 14 pages left in the book, and you just don't care. It's like you can't be slapped around by the same person for 330 pages and then be like, but this happened to her, and so it's okay now. It's like, no, that's not how this is going to work. And I don't know. It doesn't ruin the story, but it definitely stops it from being a 5 out of 5. But like I said, I'm just one guy with an opinion. Please click the link in the description below, get the book yourself, read it, and come back and let me know if you think I'm crazy, if I nailed it, or if I, in somewhere in between. Love to have a conversation. All right, welcome to the spoiler-filled review. If you're watching this, then you definitely know I'm going to just unveil all the secrets. So you don't like spoilers, stop the video now because I'm not going to give you another warning. So the story starts off, and Enzo, like I said, is a mid-level errand boy for the Fel, the bad demons. He runs around as an Uber Eats delivery boy on his off time to make, I don't know, $100, $200 a night, whatever he can make running around. He does BMX bike stuff. He's got the body of a 23-year-old, but he's an ancient fallen angel. He's been around since before creation was a thing. Yes, the ultimate edgelord. He was banished to Earth for siding with Lucifer during the Great Sundering, and yeah, well, everybody knows how that story ends. Lucifer didn't win. So all the angels were banished by God to like a purgatory, like an entropy place or whatever. It was really, really bad. Lost their wings and everything, and then end up crawling their way up to Earth. But there's rules. They can't kill a human being, or when they die, God will just remove them from existence. I thought that was a little weak. I get why the author put that in there. It's so that they couldn't just say, well, the angels were pissed, so they just killed all the humans. But the problem is, an angel does kill. A demon does kill a human in the book, and nothing happens to it. It could have gone on a rampage and killed every human in the city, and unless the angels themselves intervened, nothing would have stopped them. Demon was insane. He had lost his sanity and just his mind had finally snapped. But yeah, he killed a human. Like, he mutilated a human. It's actually a really cool scene, but nothing happens to him. Nothing at all. In fact, he becomes even more demonic. He becomes kind of monstrous, and he's about to go on a killing spree in the middle of the city when the Enzo and Allie's intervene and end up killing him first. But the idea was, like, after the demon dies, God's just going to unmake him, which basically makes it like he doesn't exist anymore. But none of his stuff changes. Like, none of the stuff that he did on Earth changes. That human didn't come back to life. They didn't forget about him or anything like that. It wasn't like it never happened. It was, they killed the angel that killed, or the fallen, the Fel that killed a human being, but God didn't intervene. Nobody stopped him. So, I mean, the only punishment is you are unmade, and all the demons are terrified of that. They don't want to be unmade by God. They don't want to cease to exist, but they're terrified of excruciating pain forever, for all eternity in hell, no matter what they do, no matter where they go. And they all sided with Lucifer because he didn't like humans. I mean, you Google it, but I'm pretty sure that's the story. Lucifer didn't like that God liked us better than him. And so the demons wanted to get rid of us so that God would pay attention to them only again. And God was like, nah, I got new favorites. Y'all are done. And so all the fallen demons, they can't be redeemed. It's said many times in the book, they cannot be redeemed. They'll never make it back to heaven. They will never get back into God's good graces. I want to talk about that, by the way, so put a pin in that one. And Yeah, no matter what they do, no matter how much good they do, cure cancer, make all humans believe in God, blah blah blah, it won't matter. They'll still end up in hell for all eternity when they eventually die, or when the rapture happens, whatever. Why? That doesn't make any sense. Like, if you knew that, if your sole purpose, your reason for turning your back on God was because you wanted to kill off the humans, you wanted to destroy them all so that God would pay attention to you, and then God punishes you by putting you down with the rest of the humans, and the only punishment that you'll receive is after you die, if you kill humans, is after you die, you'll be removed from existence, as opposed to being tortured for eternity. I'm not really seeing what's stopping them, but it stops them. The author ensures that. So I think that blockage, I understand why it's in the story, but it doesn't make any sense. It fails to hit the mark, and I don't believe for a second that would stop demons from just eradicating all of humanity, because the only thing that they have to look forward to is an eternity of horrendous torture, or not existing anymore when you die. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not a demon, but if I was that mad at everything and I wanted to get back at my creator, I would have eradicated all humans. And then when I died, I'd be like, yeah, go ahead, eradicate me. Cool, thanks, bye. Enjoy remaking your toys. I'm saying, I know that's blasphemy. I'm not a demon. Calm down. I'm not killing anybody. But if I was a demon with that mentality, that just seems like something they would do. I don't know. But other than that, the foundational story of where they came from, where they come down, and how they've split off and everything like that, with the exception of that that particular, in my opinion, loophole there, it's a pretty good, solid foundational story that draws you in and makes you interested in the world that the author's creating. I like that a lot. The world building is definitely spot on. So anyway, Enzo gets called to the Dreadlord, which is his boss, and gets told, hey, the Werewolf King was kidnapped by the Unfallen. I want you to go and infiltrate them and get the Werewolf King back for me, because he's my boy. And Enzo doesn't really have a choice. Dreadlord says jump, he says how high. So he goes. I mean, there's a little drama like, oh, I don't want to do it. I'm Enzo. I'd rather just sulk. But he does go ahead and do that, and because he doesn't really have a choice. So he comes up with a pretty decent plan to basically, he buys a baby dragon for like $1,500, because that's a thing, which is actually kind of cool. I won't lie. His name is Humphrey, and I like him a lot. So you know what? We're going back off onto dragon buying, because I like that a lot. He's basically just a big pit bull. He's a puppy. He's got that mentality, and I'm sorry, I like the sidekicks. I'm a sidekick junkie, and I don't care. Humphreys gets a pass. I like him. He's a little baby dragon with all the love in his heart of a puppy, and I'm really glad that the author didn't John Wick this particular character. He's going to get this dragon with the idea of it's going to attack a human, and he's going to kill it in order to protect the human, make sure the Unfallen see him, because the Unfallen protect humans because they're trying to redeem themselves. And when they see him do that, the hope is that they'll trust him enough to take him under their wing. He's going to say that he's a recently defected fel, and he really hasn't thought about what to do next. It's not a terrible story. It seems a little unlikely. The Unfallen, I have a problem believing that they would just buy that right away. And in fairness, they don't. But his plan works. He goes and he ends up following this human. He sees a couple Unfallen following her because they were trying to protect her. Of course, they do a terrible job because they have to. The dragon attacks her, scares her to death. Enzo's about to kill the dragon, but he's hung out with Humphrey for a little bit, and he kind of has feelings for him. So he's, the demon with the heart of gold. So he doesn't kill Humphreys, but he does stab him in the tail. And that's when I was totally fine with Enzo dying anytime in the book. Humphrey's fine. He gets the Unfallen, are like, thank you for your service, and they take him back to their stronghold immediately. He's probably lying. They have no way to tell whatsoever. He's been around since creation, since they've all dropped down to the earth. But now all of a sudden he's recently, defected from the Fel, and for some reason protected this woman from a dragon. Granted, a little baby dragon. And they're just like, okay, we believe you enough. Follow us to our base of operations that we've been hiding from the Fel. What the actual F? It's okay, but they get there, the dragon gets taken care of, and instead of immediately being thrown into prison or into some sort of holding cell or anything like that, they just kind of trust him. They actually have a lie detector guy, and unfortunately, he's out for months visiting the grave of somebody that's dead, and we'll get to that in a minute too. But yeah, until he's back, they're gonna treat him like an intern. That's pretty much what they do. They have no reason to trust him. They have no reason to believe anything that he said. They are literally in the middle of a massive exercise, an experimental phase, where they're trying to turn werewolves back into humans because they think if they can lift the curse, it would make things better, and it's one step closer to impossible redemption from God because they're ridding the planet of werewolves. The experimentation is not going well. They've killed every werewolf they've tried it on, and the Wolf King is now basically a hunchback of Notre Dame because it kind of worked on him, and he's stuck in between, human and werewolf form, and so he's basically a mutation. It is not going well. They know the Fel would want to stop that if they found out about it because the werewolves are allies with the Fel. Enzo, for all they know, is an agent of the Fel, but these super ancient beings just buy it and let him in, no problem. Yeah, dude, come on in. We're going to make you an intern. We don't trust you, but we trust you. In fact, we trust you so much, we're going to let you partner up with the worst possible partner we could give you. And the reasoning for it is kind of hilarious. They basically give him this partner, Allie's, and she is the stereotypical man-hating feminist with no redeeming traits whatsoever. That being said, she's very much in love with a demon. He's like a reaper, which is kind of cool. I like the way there's different casts to the demons. I like that. But Allie's hates him. In fact, Allie's tried to kill him earlier in the book because he was defending a werewolf that she had basically kidnapped. And so she shot him with this arrow in his hand, and when she jumped down to attack him, he grabbed her by the throat and slammed her on the ground, was about to kill her when he realized she was a human, so he let her go. And now, though, she's like, oh, he tried to kill me, we should kill him right now. He can't kill her out of fear of being ended when he dies. Again, very weird loophole. And no, it's cool. We'll make you partners because Enzo can't kill you, and while she could try to kill you, we're willing to take that risk. Haha, aren't we cute? It's like, yeah, he can't kill her, but he could like snap her spinal cord, right? Like right at the nape of the neck. This angel possibly was the guy who invented blue, for all we know. I mean, we don't know what he was doing in creation. Are you telling me that this ancient angel, this ancient fallen demon who's been around since creation, doesn't know basic human anatomy on where exactly to strike to not kill her, but put her in a wheelchair for the rest of her life? I don't get it. And he also, they went out on missions to fight things, to kill Fel. All he had to do was step back and wait. And then when they came back, oh, I tried. He's all cut up or whatever. Maybe even kills the Fel. But yeah, she didn't make it. Sorry. It's just a very, very weird thing to do. So he goes out on these missions with Allie's, and he does kill Fel. He kills werewolves and witches and warlocks and demons and all this other crap that comes out with Allie's. She is constantly just running her mouth at him, taunting him, because she knows he can't kill her. Again, he could hurt her really bad, but he never does. And it just blows my mind that that she gets away with some of the stuff that she gets away with. She threatens him, taunts him, and just says awful, awful things to him, but never acknowledges. Like, he even tells her, the only reason I attacked you is because you tried to kill me, and I was protecting that werewolf because that was a friend of mine. That was my job to protect them. You do the same thing. It wasn't personal. No, no, you're just an awful man. You're a chauvinist pig. Literally, I'm not making that up. That's her dialogue. And the whole time, and he's just like, okay, he just takes it. I'm sorry, she'd have an accident, Oh, the fell got her. I don't know what happened. I'm sorry. But eventually, during their missions at night, they end up capturing the queen of the werewolves. This is the second time this particular werewolf, the queen of the werewolves, has been captured, and Enzo has been a part of it. Like, the first time he was releasing her, he was rescuing her, but the second time he stabs her in the back a couple times with his butterfly swords, and they capture her with silver and some stuff like that. So she's like the worst werewolf out of all of them. She gets captured constantly in this book. It's a little ridiculous. Enzo, he goes back, they turn her in because, again, more credit with the Unfallen. And while he's there, he runs into this girl, Haley. Haley is one of the girls that he's been delivering food to through the Uber Eats program for years. He knows who she is. He makes a point of it. Like, when he sees the address come up and the vegan food that she eats, he knows who she is. He's not interested in her at all. She's like this hermit that is like beneath him. He doesn't dislike her, but he doesn't think of her of any kind of romance or anything like that. She's just, of course, gorgeous and thin and blah, 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 but she seems to be this little shut-in that he just delivers food to from every once in a while. And that's it. He flirts with her a little bit, but that's because he's a whore. And he never really means anything by it. It's just whatever. She'd be another notch in a belt. And that's it. He's not interested in her. But then he sees her there, and she's all full of blood and upset and everything like that. And he's like, oh my God, I know her. And starts to feel feelings for her. What? I don't get where that's coming from. But again, the romance section of this storyline is shoehorned in. It feels forced, and it doesn't do anything positive for the story. Turns out, of course, Haley is a Nephilim, and she ended up, the reason she's there is because her boyfriend turned into a werewolf and wolfed out on her, and her latent powers came to the front to stop him from killing her. But it's very weird. Nephilim is, if you don't know, is half demon, half human, and they have superpowers because of it. Basically like a bunch of antichrists running around. But yeah, it happens. It happens semi-rarely, but it's not such an uncommon occurrence that they're not used to it. In fact, they actively recruit the Nephilim because even since they're human, demons can't kill them, but they can kill demons and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a catch. It's a clever use of humans in the book. I like that. So when he discovers Haley and that she's going to join up and that she's going to join the Unfallen, he wants to be her trainer. He wants to work with her. So he picks a fight with Allie's, words only. She goes storming off because he hurts her little feelings. And then, of course, he's immediately rewarded to be Haley's trainer. A brand new recruit to the Unfallen. He still has not been vetted by the Unfallen. Their operational security measures are awful. If this is really how demons and angels run their stuff, then it makes total sense why heaven kind of fell apart back in the day. Because, oh my God. So you're an adversary. You're one of the people that are trying to take us out, right? Yeah, but I quit. Like, how long ago? Recently. Well, come on, let's get you an ID and a badge, and hey, we got some new recruits we want you to just hang out with. No, they're completely untrained, vulnerable women. By all means. They know he's a demon whore. It's not a secret. Yep, this 21-year-old girl, because that's what Haley is, who just killed her boyfriend, is incredibly vulnerable. We're going to go ahead and put you in charge of their training, because, all right. Oh, my God. So, of course, Haley and Enzo, through their training and their montages, fall madly in love with each other. It's not a terrible love story between them, but it is definitely forced. I mean, it's not just like unga bunga or anything like that, but it's close. It's close. There might only be like 2 or 3 syllables. And Haley is also kind of an awful person. I shouldn't say it like that. She's a massive tease. At one point, Haley and Enzo are hanging out, and they're flirting very heavily. There's already been some light petting, and they're out walking around Unfallen's like courtyard and stuff like that, and she's like, "Can we go back to your place?" Like after a real intense conversation where she's trying to fix him because he's broken, and only her love can do that. They kind of start making out a little bit, and she's like, "Let's go back to your room. I'm cold." And so Enzo, it's even in the book, Enzo's like, "Okay, I know what that's code for. Outstanding." So they go back to his room, and then the light petting turns into heavy petting, right? They're really going at it. And she's all for it. She's like, "Yeah, let's go." He starts to go down on her, and she changes her mind. Perfectly acceptable. Nothing wrong with that. She tells him, "Hey, we should stop. I'm not ready for this." Enzo doesn't stop. Again, demon, little rapey. But what ends up happening is she's like, "No, seriously, stop." I said no. And then she starts moaning some more because he's doing things to her. And Allie's comes out of nowhere and kicks down his door because she's been looking for him and sees them. Allie's is very jealous because although she hates men, she wants them all to love her for whatever reason, or want her. I'm not really sure. And basically threatens to hurt Haley. And Enzo can't stop either of them, physically, because he's worried about killing one of them and eventually being eradicated from existence. But Haley runs out of the room, and him and Allie's argue again, and she goes storming off because she's jealous. I mean, it's as simple as that. It doesn't make any sense, but like I said before, every girl wants to sleep with Enzo. And then Haley texts Enzo, which she's back in her room after that, and is like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get you in trouble. I hope that wasn't your girlfriend." And he's like, "No, not a girlfriend. I really care about you. I really like you, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "I'm glad that she stopped us, though. I told you to stop, and you didn't." And he was like, "I'm sorry. I just can't control myself when I'm around you." I mean, okay, little on the nose there, but we'll go with it. Whatever. Little rapey, but still. And then she's like, "Well, I want you to promise me that you won't put me in that position again until I'm ready, until I say it's time." And he's like, "I don't want to promise that, but okay, for you, anything, I promise." And then she's like, "Good, thank you very much. Now let me give you detail about what I'm doing to myself." She starts teasing him by telling him, giving him details about how she's masturbating. So it's like saying, "I don't want to eat cake. I don't want you to eat any cake until I'm ready to eat cake. I'm baking you a cake." What? What? She's like a child. This is like the stupidest, most immature, ignorant idea of flirting and sex I've ever seen out of a character. It's like a teenager's idea of what flirting with an older man should be like. It's disgusting. And it really, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I know what happens. I get that. But it really makes the character unlikable in my eyes because, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Now let me tempt you really, really hard. And I know it's going to tempt you. I know it's going to really drive you out of your mind. I mean, there's 50 Shades of Grey, and then there's just sick, sick, sick people. That's just really messed up in my head. But anyway, Enzo then decides, that he's in love with Haley, and he's struggling with it because, demon. But he ends up deciding that he's going to stay with the Unfallen, but he's still going to also do his mission and free the king and Queen Wolf because he feels like he has to. That way, in his mind, maybe the Unfallen will forgive him. He comes up with this pretty decent plan in order to get him out of there, and sets off sleep bombs in the dungeon to knock out all the guards. And I thought, okay, cool, he's going to get him out of there then. No, he goes and he explains the whole thing to both wolves, the king and the queen, gives them the ability to get out and tells them to wait 24 hours so that this time bomb goes off that he set up. And when the bomb goes off, you can escape, cut off the hand of one of the guards to escape and leave it at the door. Shouldn't be a big deal at all. It works. A day later, he's having sex with Haley because she throws herself at him because, again, lots of mixed messages from Haley. Like, just one of the most immature characters I've seen in a long time. And it's just, she's kind of awful. But yeah, she throws herself at him. They're having crazy sex like 8 or 9 times. I think it's 4 times if I'm being realistic. In one night they have sex, and sure, totally possible. Whatever. They're both. She's 21. He's 350,000 years old. Or I'm sorry, 23. But yeah, they have multiple rounds of crazy, passionate, painful sex where there's damage to furniture and their bodies. But yeah, that's what happens. And during all that, the wolves escape, and everybody knows it was Enzo. Everybody, because the Wolf Queen rats him out. As she's leaving, she tells this guy Huey, which is a guy that they rescued earlier, that yeah, they totally Enzo's the one that released us. Here's his whole plan for us to get out of here. Make sure he pays with his life. And of course, the kid just tells everybody everything. Even though Enzo's the one that saved him, kid tells everything. So they come, they capture Enzo, who doesn't fight because he doesn't want Haley to get hurt, because he is truly in love with her. And while he's in jail, he's not killed instantly for the betrayal or the escape or the fact that they've left him open to attack, because now they have a way in. They take a guard's hand to open the gate, but the gate opens from both sides. So as long as they have that guard's hand with the little symbol in it, anybody can get in their thing. So the feller coming. Nobody figures that out but Enzo. But the feller coming. It's a ridiculously stupid thing. They, instead of killing him instantly, though, they put him in jail just in case they still need him. They never really say for what, but just in case they still need him, they put him in jail, in their dungeon. No guards are watching Enzo, which allows Allies to come down there and torture him, literally melting his arm almost completely off. And then after that happens, that same kid, the 18-year-old that's been on the property for about a day, he's joined them, so he's got his mark, and he's just walking around randomly. He's able to access the dungeon where Enzo's being held, talk to Enzo. Enzo tells him how to help him to escape. He does that by finding a piece of paper that controls the runes that are keeping him in the dungeon and setting it on fire. There are no guards watching him. So here, let me put this into perspective for you. Go to any prison in the country, in the world, and try to walk up and talk to a prisoner without permission, without talking to anyone. I double dog dare you. Let alone a guy that is a known traitor, double-crossing traitor, that just released the king and queen werewolf of your city. No guards are watching him whatsoever. None. Zero. An 18-year-old boy walks up, talks to him, gets convinced to let him out, and the way to get him out isn't by some spell or magical interference or super difficult to get key or even abracadabra. It is a piece of folded paper kept on a book on a pedestal that nobody's paying attention to. It isn't even in an envelope. The Unfallen are idiots. So Enzo escapes, gets out, but his only thing that he wants to do is, the reason that he wants out is to protect Haley, because he knows the feller coming and she'll be killed. She has unlocked some of her Nephilim powers, but she has no real control over them, no real training, and she's very weak. Honestly, she's a sex doll. That was her purpose in this whole thing. He's out. Haley's relieved to see him, is overcome because he's hurt really bad. The love is there. I'll give the author that. She definitely conveys the relationship between the two of them. And the fell attack. Of course they attack. He tells everybody they're going to attack, and they don't do anything to prepare for it whatsoever. The doors are closed. That's it. So they get attacked. The fell come in. And they come in such a calm and relaxed way, one at a time, led by the Dreadlord Malkt, or whatever his name is. I can't remember off the top of my head now. And he comes in and he starts monologuing. And of course, the leader of the Unfallen charge him. She is not a Dreadlord. The Dreadlord beats her ass. It was actually kind of cool. And kind of kicks her away. And then she sees Enzo and attacks him. Like, it's like, the Unfallen's leader is a moron. You have the enemy literally inside your walls. They have kicked down your front door. They have just handed you your butt. And you see an escaped convict. Yeah, granted, he's a traitor, but you attack him? You've got bigger things to deal with. Yeah, the Unfallen leader is a moron. Anyway, Enzo gets the choice: rejoin us in the Fel, or stay with the Unfallen. But either way, we're gonna just kill everybody here. You could either be with us or against us. And Enzo's like, no, I don't care whose side I'm on. I'm on Haley's side. She's the only one for me. Everything is Haley, Haley, Haley. And the fight ensues, and he gets his butt kicked. The Demon Lord kicks his butt. And so he's on death's door. He's been hit by fireballs. He's bleeding out. He's done. The Demon Lord is coming to finish him off. And Haley jumps on top of the Demon Lord, or the Dread Lord anyway, and starts using her Nephilim claws to try to hurt him, and it's nothing. He literally laughs at her and knocks her off of him. And she goes sliding across the courtyard, runs into a pillar, and is unconscious. And that kicks off his love powers and stuff, and Enzo jumps up, and because of his love for Haley, God grants him Archon level promotion. It's unearned, it's unworthy, it's unbelievable, but the power of love that he has for Haley, this insignificant speck in the grand scheme of things, he turns into basically the evil version of an archangel and smites the Dreadlord, kills them all off, saves the day. Haley's totally fine, by the way. And yeah, afterwards he's like, oh good, you're alive, you're fine. And then he sleeps for like a week to recover. Upon waking up, okay, remember, he just fought off a Dreadlord, became an Archon or whatever. He's an evil version of an archangel, which makes him like a parental figure to all the Unfallen around him. They don't have to follow his orders, but if he wants them to, he could kind of force them, because he's kind of all of that and a bag of potato chips now. But this is all because of his love for Haley, his devotion to Haley, his want to protect her and make her happy and be good. After sleeping for a week to recover, he wakes up a little groggy. The maid that he's already slept with once, named Cherry, is in his room, just so happens to be there when he wakes up. And the first thing that she does when he wakes up is makes a pass on him, and he starts going for it. He starts cheating on Haley immediately. She walks in to him with his hands on her chest parts, and yeah, immediately cheats on Haley. She sees it. She's devastated. She's heartbroken. And the only thing that ends up happening is he feels awful. Oh, I'm such a bad person. I'm a I'm a bad demon. Oh, bad llama. And yeah, he orders her to go to a different Unfallen stronghold so a different trainer can take care of her. Although he does demand that it's a woman trainer, because he doesn't want her to fall in love with another demon. He wants it to be a human, so that I don't know. And then he just goes back to his regular life. He's still an Uber Eats delivery guy. He's an Archon. He could be running things and doing things, and he's in charge of the whole city now, per the rules of whatever. And instead, he goes back to his regular life and stuff like that. And, he cuts off all ties. He says it's for noble reasons, and he wants her to be happy, and she can't be happy with him because he'll just keep hurting her because he's a bad demon. And, yeah, but he's still an archdemon. Didn't lose any of his powers. He gets his wings back and all that. But, yeah, the woman he did it all for, he immediately cheats on, and that's the biggest plot hole in the whole story. It doesn't make any sense why he would do that. He literally betrayed both factions of demons for this 21-year-old sex doll, And then 7 days later, when he wakes up from recovering from fighting for her life, he cheats on her instantly with the first woman to give him an opportunity. I wish that was better explained in the story. But again, I know I do a lot of complaining, and I do that not because this review thing is not for readers, it's for authors. I want to point out the stuff that I think could be better. These are my opinions, of course. That doesn't mean that I'm right. But I want to point out the things that I think are wrong or need work or a little weak in the story so that the author can go and relook at them and maybe improve on it. Maybe not in this particular story, but in future stories, or if they want to go back and look at this one. They don't have to agree with everything that I say or that I think, but if it helps, if even one thing that I said helps make the story a little bit better or make the author a little bit better or open their eyes to something, then this entire effort was worth it. And I got to read a good story. It's 4 out of 5 stars. It actually is really good. If you are a reader or an author that's interested, please go check it out. Click the link in the description below, get the book, read it yourself, come back and let me know if you think I'm an absolute lunatic, which you might be onto something there. I'm not really sure. If I got it right, if I got it wrong, or anything in between. Love to have a conversation. And that's it. Another book review is in the history books. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took something from it. I hope it was helpful. Like I said, this was a good story. I did enjoy it. It was just the romance part and the female characters, the main characters, they were just unlikable. It was too bad. Otherwise, this was a good story. I know I did a lot of complaining. That's what I do. That's kind of my niche. But honestly, it's a good story. It's a good book. I think it just needs a little bit of shoring up, a little bit of difference, maybe dial back the romance a little bit, or at least improve the characters so that they're more realistic, that they're, I just don't think that it's, or maybe just switch the genre over to romance so people like me don't read it. Maybe that's the case. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to reach out in the comments section below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But as always, thanks.